Hello everyone, welcome to the part 3 of the video where we will be solving Civil Services Prelims 2021 paper from question number 31 onwards. Also, I've noticed that it is taking me quite a lot of time to cover the questions. So I've decided that the questions which are totally factual and conceptual in nature, we will not be giving more time to those kind of questions, and we'll be focusing more on those questions where we can reach the answer by using certain kind of logic. So let's begin. Question number 31. With reference to Chauset Yogini temple situated near Morena, consider the following statements. So as we can see that it is a multi-statement question, and we need to just find one statement which can be wrong rather than knowing it all. Let's start from bottom to up. Its design has given rise to a popular belief that it was the inspiration behind the Indian Parliament building. Now, see, UPSC has placed the word popular belief. It is so difficult to falsify this statement because even if in a small village of Morena, even if 10 people believe that the inspiration behind the design of the building of Parliament is from this temple, this statement will be right. So it is very difficult to falsify, hence we will consider this right. Now there are only two options where we have statement 4. Hence we are reduced to CNT. Let's read ahead. It was meant to promote Vaishnav cult. Now, if you do not know anything about a temple, we cannot really be sure whether it belongs to Vaishnav cult or whether it belongs to Shaivite cult or XYZ. So we will not be taking any decision here. Let's read second statement. It is the only circular temple built in India. Now, this statement is very absolute. It is saying that it is the only circular temple, right? So even if there are like n number of temples in India, if only this temple is circular, then this statement will be right, which is very highly unlikely. There might be some other plus one temple which is circular, right? So this statement is false. Now, if we are able to just eliminate the second statement, we are able to reach to an answer, which is C, 1 and 4. And we have also ultimately been reduced to C and D. Now, let's read the statement first. It is a circular temple built during the reign of this dynasty. So, even if we do not know the dynasty, I think statement 2 was the most important statement here. After eliminating which, we are getting to the answer C. So the answer was C, and I marked C in the exam, and it turned out to be right. And I didn't know anything about this question. So these kind of questions where we do not know anything, and if we just stay cool, calm-headed, and we read the statements in a very logical fashion, we are able to reach the answer in these kind of questions. Now this was a totally factual question, whether you know it or you don't know it. They are asking us to identify a site with certain features, like which site was it, implementing water harvesting and management by building a series of dams, etc. Now, all these 4 sites are very famous Indus Valley civilization sites. And we need to know the specific site. You can't make any kind of logic. So Dholavira was the answer, and it was a lot in news before the examination. It was, I think, an article came on Indian Express in the explained section. So yes, now what we can do after this exam while we are analyzing the questions is that we need to study at least in significant detail about these 4 sites, because UPSC has asked about Kalibangan, about Rakhigadi, about Ropar. We should go to the Wikipedia page and we should read the first paragraph, so that if question is asked on Kalibangan or Rakhigadi or Ropar in the future examination, we are able to handle it. And ultimately, this was a factual question. There can be no logic which can be applied here. Again, a similar question. It was totally a factual question. UPSC has constantly been asking about ports. UPSC has been asking about certain locations which were important towns in a history, right? And it is not humanly possible to remember all the locations, like around thousands, if not thousand, maybe 500 locations are there in different textbook. We can't remember everything. So I had no idea almost when I saw the question. I mean, when I was reading the options, I was not able to reach to any conclusion, and I didn't want to make any blind guess. Hence, I didn't went for this question. I skipped this question, and I don't know what is the answer, but my logic is that it is totally a factual question, so I skipped it. Now again, there was after this 32 question, there was a series of question which I skipped, and I am telling it explicitly that I skipped these questions just to tell that logic and your knowledge will work to a certain extent. UPSC is deliberately giving out of 200 questions, UPSC will deliberately give almost 20 to 15 questions where they want you to make blind guesses and they want you to go wrong. So I think it is important to identify those at least 10 to 15 questions where you know that the question is very difficult and you do not know anything about it. So history has been my that area where I find that I'm not able to recall a lot of factual information, and so I was not able to attempt this question, and actually I had no idea almost about this Mokharis and Maitrakas, and I had some idea about the Pushyabhutis and Guptas, but the question was very specific, so I didn't attempt it. And it will be a trap if we will be attempting such questions which we have no idea about at all, and we are not even able to make any kind of logic. So I didn't attempt 33, I didn't attempt 34. Then in this question, now see, UPSC is asking these kind of questions where they are, now let's first read the question. According to the writer Nunes, they are asking about the women in Vijayanagar Empire. So Vijayanagar Empire has been the most favorite topic of UPSC for long time now. They have been asking about the rulers of Vijayanagar Empire. They have been asking about the cities like Hampi in Vijayanagar Empire. They have been asking about their temple style, right? They asked about, I think there was a question on Kalyan Mandapa. It was a style of temple architecture in Vijayanagar Empire. So they have been really fascinated with the Vijayanagar Empire because it was such an advanced empire for their time. So now my logic in the exam was that I knew all this, that they have been asking a lot, and Vijayanagar Empire was a very advanced empire for their time. So here my logic was that wrestling, astrology, accounting, soothsaying, it is very highly likely that such an advanced empire like Vijayanagar Empire, women must have been involved in these kind of activities. And again, if we try to falsify any of this statement, it is so difficult to say that any of this was not practiced. For example, even if one woman in the whole Vijayanagar Empire was practicing wrestling, this statement will be right. So it is very difficult to falsify any of these four statements, because even if any one of the women was doing these activity, we will have to make it true. So I went with D, and D was the answer. So see, my learning from these kind of questions have been that we will ultimately not be knowing the exact answer, that whether women were doing wrestling or accounting or soothsaying or not, but it is this lateral knowledge that you will develop after solving the PYQs, where you will be able to kind of comprehend that the what is the context of the question. So the context of the question is that Vijayanagar Empire is a very advanced empire, and there is a specific chapter dedicated to it in NCRT. So if you have read that chapter, you will know how advanced it was, and you will not be able to eliminate any of these options. So you will go with 1 2 3 4, and I went with that, and it turned out to be true. So D is the answer. 36th. Now, this again was a totally factual question. Until and unless you do not know it, you will not be able to solve it. And just to see the importance of NCRTs, this question came from a sixth NCRT. And in the sixth NCRT, this is like mentioned in the footnotes. So as the book starts, I think there is this one image and there is a footnote, and this information which was asked here in question 36 was asked in the footnotes. So this shows that how important NCRTs are, especially new NCRTs. So we need to read them, and this is a totally factual question. The answer to it was C, and there is no logic almost that we can use. Now what we can learn from this question, how we can use it, to enhance the preparation. See, all these four options that are there in this question, they are talking about Madame Blavatsky, they are talking about Colonel Olcott, okay, they are talking about Theosophical Society, then they are talking about Tagore, they are talking about Pitabi Sitaramaya, they are talking about Pingali Venkaya. So our duty is that the UPSC is not randomly asking about these stuff. about the even the wrong options. So my strategy had been that these personalities became famous for me. Whatever came in, even in the options, I used to make sure that if whenever I'm reading spectrum or history and any information came on Bengali Vinkaya, I will read it very concisely and I'll read it in that manner that a question can come in the next exam on Bengali Vinkaya or on Patabi Sitaramaya or on Madam Blavatsky, because these topics are important for UPSC. And this happens even in the in the wrong options. Some information is given and it is asked in the next paper. So we need to analyze the questions from that part, and we need to not just solve PYQs, we need to study PYQs. Okay, so let's see 37th question. So even in this question, I really had no information. I had familiarity with some of the places like Burza Home, but the question was really difficult in the exam situation. I was not able to locate that what it is famous for. So I just simply skipped this question, and I didn't attempt it. But now, from a analysis point of view, it becomes really important that we go to Wikipedia and we search about and we study in a little detail, almost like we can study the first paragraph of the locations and we can study the features for these places, because they might again be asked. And what we can do is that when we are studying a textbook, we can have a special emphasis whenever there are rock cut shines and whenever there is some discovery of terracotta art or copper artifacts. We should keep our eyes and ears open whenever any locations come that have this in mention: rock cut shines, terracotta art, copper artifacts. But I didn't know the answer and I didn't attempt it in the examination hall. Same goes for question number 38. I read the question and I was not able to recall the exact factual information of the events in a chronological manner. And I knew that it will be very risky in these questions. So I didn't attempt this either. So there, as you can see, that there were a series of questions which I didn't attempt, and my only logic was that I will not make a blind guess. And we need to be very logical in the questions which we need to attempt, and as well as we need to know the questions which we don't have to attempt. So you might attempt this question if you know something, but on my part, I was not sure about different factual information which was given in 1, 2, and 3. So I simply skipped it. Question number 39 and 40. Uh, as I said that I didn't attempt a series of questions, the series continued till 40. And rightly so, because I don't think like anyone of who was not from history background would have known that what is the Mitakshara or Daya Bhaga system, and who would have known it in such detail. So I just simply read the question once and I made the decision that I'm not going to attempt it, because I was not sure about the factual stuff. And the same for 39 also. So I skipped question number 39 and 40. And even today, if you will ask me that is there any logical way to approach these questions, even if we do not know it, I have not been able to see any kind of logic in it, whether you know it or whether you don't know it. So yes, UPSC has been putting the questions in paper which are very factual, and ultimately you need to also respect the questions which you don't know. For example, if Dhoni is playing in a match and if a bouncer is given, so it is very important for him to to dodge the ball, which are really good balls. So we need to see these questions in that light, and we need not take it to our ego that we don't know it. So I think some questions just like some good balls need to be defended. We need to respect the question and we need to say that we don't know and we need to move ahead. Okay, so question number 41. So in question number 41, I knew about this guy called Bhavabhuti, and I think somewhere in Nitin Singhania, while I was reading the chapter on Indian literature, I read his name for some book. So I knew that the answer was playwright, and otherwise there it would have been really difficult, because all the four options, Jain monks, temple architects, philosophers, seems really plausible options. None of them is totally illogical. So yeah, playwrights was the answer. The thing to notice is that the other options, Jain monks, temple architects, philosophers, whenever we'll be reading our textbooks from now on, we'll make sure that if a Jain monk come, we will try to remember the name. Because see, in the very next year, I think 2022, they asked a question on certain names, and they were trying to relate whether he's a Jain monk or a Buddhist monk. So this topic is important for UPSC. Now it becomes a duty that we study about Jain monks, temple architects, and philosophers whenever we are reading our textbooks, and whenever they come, we try to have our eyes and ears open. Okay. So 42. This was a totally factual question, and no amount of logic can be applied. I think to some extent, logic could have been applied in first statement, because they are saying that these reforms recommended granting voting rights to all women in the age of 21. So it is so highly unlikely that in 1919 such kind of activity could have happened, because even in Europe, there was no universal adult franchise in Europe at that time. So how could have Britishers, given such extreme right to all the women in the age of 21? है ना? So I think statement one was totally an extreme statement, and this was totally false. Then the second statement, Government of India Act gave women reserved seats in legislature. Until and unless you have not read about Government of India Act 1935, you will not be able to know. So the answer was B, and it was a mix of logic and knowledge, because they are checking your knowledge in statement second, and they are checking your logic in statement first. With reference to 8th August, now this was again a very simple and a factual question, whether you know it or whether you do not know it. So the answer was, I think, 8th August 1942. I think the answer was Quit India Resolution was adopted, and you can't implement any kind of logic in it. So you need to read spectrum in a very detailed manner, and you need to remember the factual stuff that is given there. Who among the following is associated with songs in prison? In this question, I had no idea. So basically, I was not even able to eliminate, because at some point of time, all of the folks whose name were given, they all were in prison at some point of time in life. Okay. But there was one additional information which was given in the question, and it was that it is a translation of ancient Indian religious lyrics. So they are talking about religion. Now we all know that Nehru was not really a guy who would have talked about religion. He was a very secular guy, right? And he wouldn't have really got into conversations or translations of religious lyrics. So, and I think same goes with the Naidu. So the options were reduced to Gandhi and Tilak. Both of them were associated to religion, obviously in a different way. So if you would have reduced to these two, A or C, ultimately you were reduced to 50-50, and both of the answers seem very plausible. It can be A, it can be C, and I went with the C, almost as I said you, with no logic, because Tilak and Gandhi both were very plausible. I went with C, and it turned out that C was the answer. So we could have eliminated B and D here by just after see, as I said, that all of these four were in prison at some point of time. But who would have got into translation of religious lyrics? It surely wouldn't have been Nehru nor Naidu. It could have been Tilak or Gandhi. Yeah. So I did C, and it turned out to be true. Had I gone with A, which I could have gone, there were 50-50 chances, it would have been wrong. This question directly was borrowed from NCRT, the new NCRTs. There's a clear difference given on what is a Suba, Sarkar, Parangana. I think in the examination, I was able to remember that in Bengal, there's a place called 24 Paranganas. So from that, somehow so basically I knew that Suba is a state, because there used to be a Subedar. So that was the highest in terms of precedence, in terms of ascending order. So I knew definitely about A or B, but in between A and B, I was not sure that what is going to be the answer. I don't remember the answer for this question. So it has to be one of A or B. But whatever I went with, it turned out to be true. And I don't remember the answer right now. But with this logic of 24 Paranganas, I think that Parangana must have been a really smaller unit, because like 24 Paranganas, this is whole district. So I think I went with A in the examination hall. And I think A was the right answer. And you can check what was the right answer for this question. As per me, I think, as per the current logic that I'm able to think, it is A. Now 46 question is an exact PYQ repeated. There is this question which has been asked, and it was a multi-statement question. There were three statements, and in one statement it was written that Ishwar Chand Vidyasagar was the secretary of Bethune School. So it is a factual question. There is no logic as such which can be applied whether you know it or you don't know it. 47th, it is again a very factual question, whether you know it or whether you don't know it. And the answers were that they were the officers of the Indian National Army. And I think it is asked because it is exactly mentioned in Spectrum. And when there were the trials of the INA officers, they were involved in that. So that is an important event. 48th, I did not know about this question. And as you can see that history is that area where whether you know it or whether you don't know it. So it is better that you do not make any blind guesses. And if you do not know the question, and if you don't know any of the statement in the question, it's better to be respectable and just don't make any blind guesses. So I didn't attempt 48th. Now 49th question is actually a really beautiful question, and I was not able to find this in the examination hall, I think, but this thing, if one is able to see in the examination hall, it will be a really beautiful thing. Now let's read this question. Which of the following statements is correct? So they have asked certain monumental places, and they are asking us that where it lies. It lies in the gorge of Vagora River, it lies in the gorge of Chambal River, in the gorge of Narmada River, or in the gorge of Godavari River. Now in the examination hall, we'll be very much stumped because we will not be able to remember that where is Ajanta caves, whether it is on the Vagora River, whether it is on Sanchi Stoop, whether this is on Narmada, or whether this is on Godavari. But the question is actually not about locating it. The question is that there is actually only one place which lies on the gorge, and that is Ajanta caves. So none of the other four places, nor Sachi Stoop, nor Panduleni cave shrines, nor Amravati Stupa, that lies on the gorge. There is only one location which lies on the gorge, and that is Ajanta caves. So the answer is A. Because see, Sanchi Stupa, we could have made an idea that all these stupas are ultimately located on plain kind of situation, on the plains, not on any kind of gorge. Same with the Amravati Stupas. So we could have eliminated D and B. Now we are reduced with Panduleni cave shrines and Ajanta caves. So Ajanta caves, UPSC has been asking like for n number of times. I'm sure they've asked 20 to 10, 20 to 25 times. They have asked about Ajanta caves. So whenever you will open Google Maps, you will see that there is this kind of gorge, and on this gorge, Ajanta caves are located here. So there is only one location which is actually located on the gorge, and none of these locations are actually located on the gorge. So I think applying common sense and trying to see beyond what is asked, trying to keep your mind calm and cool, can really help to reach to the answers. And A is the answer for it. Now let's see question 50. So again, this question I solved totally using logic, and I think no one would have known this question. So let's see it. The demand that Bangla has to be one of the national languages was raised in the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. Now we all know that ultimately there was this East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Okay, so East Pakistan, this was created out of the Bengal region of India. So there must have been a lot of Bangla speakers, right? And it was actually one of the primary reasons for the creation of Bangladesh, because I think Urdu was imposed here and they were Bangla speakers. So to me, this seemed really plausible that they would have raised the demand for Bangla in their Constituent Assembly. So I thought that option 2 seems really logical. Now, if we come to the first, 21st February is declared to be the International Mother Language Day by UNICEF. Now, here I applied my logic of, which I told in my previous videos also, that they talk सच के आस-पास का झूठ. Now, what do I mean by this? That, see, UNICEF is they are actually not talking about, while they're asking this question, they are not asking, they do not expect you to know that you know International Mother Language Day. They expect you to know that whether you know what is the work of UNICEF. Because UNICEF will never do these kind of things. These kind of things will be done by UNESCO, right? Who declares the different kind of cultural heritage sites and who deal with linguistics and stuff. So here UNESCO was deliberately replaced by UNICEF by UPSC, and that is what they do. They replace the organizations. So even if we apply the rule that organizations are generally wrong, this statement will turn out to be wrong. We have to go with that logic that UNICEF is not fitting here. Okay. एंड अगर आप वो लॉजिक नहीं भी लगा पा रहे हैं एंड यू गो विद दैट रूल विच आई सेड दैट मोस्टली क्वेश्चंस में जहाँ पे जब ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस आती हैं तो दे फ्लिप इट. यूनेस्को से इन्होंने यहाँ पे यूनिसेफ फ्लिप कर दिया. तो वी नीड टू गो विद दैट लॉजिक एंड आई वेंट विद दैट. आई वॉज नॉट एबल टू एक्चुअली डिटेक्ट इन द एग्जामिनेशन हॉल वेदर इट विल बी यूनेस्को और समथिंग एल्स, बट आई डेफिनेटली हैड अ हिंट दैट यूनिसेफ तो नहीं करेगा ये. So I eliminated once first and I went with B, and that was the right answer. Now I'll show you how this logic which I'm showing in statement 1, this can also be applied in different other questions. Let me show you those questions first. Yes. So in question number 56, let's read the question. Let's read the statement first. The Global Ocean Commission. So here they are talking about the Global Ocean Commission. The Global Ocean Commission grants licenses for seabed exploration and mining in international waters. Now, अगर आपको ये बात फैक्चुअल पता है कि ये काम seabed exploration and mining का काम कौन करता है, तो आपको पता होगा that this work is done by International Seabed Authority, okay, and this authority comes under UN clause. पर अगर आपको ये बात नहीं पता और आप उसी रूल से चलते हो दैट दे मस्ट हैव फ्लिप्ड इट, दे आर स्टिल डूइंग द सच के आस पास का झूठ. So I went with I knew in the exam that this is International Seabed Authority because I had read it in current affairs, but even if you wouldn't have known it and you would have taken it wrong that they would have replaced the organization, and so this statement you will do false and you will do B answer, and that is the right answer. B is the right answer. India has received licenses for seabed mineral exploration in international waters. It is so difficult to falsify this. It is totally a general statement. India is obviously doing so much of research and everything in deep ocean mining. So we would have received seabed mineral exploration license. Rare earth minerals are present on seafloor international waters. Absolutely. This is again a very general statement. There is nothing to falsify in 2 and 3. There is only this Global Ocean Commission which has been replaced by International Seabed Authority by the examiner. So here also the rule which we were talking about, that organizations are generally wrong and they talk about सच के आस पास का झूठ. So that is applying here and the answer is B. Now let's see another one more question where this rule is getting applied. So let's read this question. They are asking about these statements 1 and 2. Okay. Now they are saying that which one of the following is correct in the above statements. Now if you will read these statements A, B, C, D, I will not read it for you. You can pause the video and read them. There is no option that both these statements are wrong. I'm repeating it again. There is no option in A, B, C, D where it is said that both statement 1 and 2 are wrong. ओके तो इससे हमें ये पता चलता है कि जो यहाँ पे ये स्टेटमेंट में ये बात कर रहे हैं हैदराबाद के बारे में, ठीक है, ये तो सही होगी ही. उसका रीज़न ये है कि कोई एक स्टेटमेंट तो सही है ही ना, मतलब दोनों सही नहीं हो सकती. ऑप्शन है ही नहीं यहाँ पे ABCD में कि बोथ आर रॉन्ग. तो इसका मतलब है कि कोई ना कोई एक तो सही है. अब कोई ना कोई अगर एक सही है तो उसका मतलब ये भी है कि हैदराबाद तो ट्री सिटी होगा ही, है ना. तो अगर आपको नहीं भी पता कि हैदराबाद ट्री सिटी था, आप इस तरह से पहुंच सकते हो कि हैदराबाद ट्री सिटी तो होगा। तो स्टेटमेंट 2 अगर हम देखें कि हैदराबाद वॉज सिलेक्टेड फॉर द रिकग्निशन फॉर अ ईयर फॉलोइंग इट्स कमिटमेंट टू ग्रो एंड मेंटेन अर्बन फॉरेस्ट। तो जो ट्री सिटी ऑफ दी वर्ल्ड पे क्वेश्चन था, इस पर अगर आपको कुछ भी नहीं पता, आप तब भी इस लॉजिक पे आ सकते हो कि स्टेटमेंट 2 विल बी राइट। उसका रीज़न ये है कि इन दोनों में से एक को तो सही होना ही है। तो नीचे कोई स्टेटमेंट, नीचे कोई ऐसा ऑप्शन ही नहीं है कि बोथ आर रॉन्ग, है ना। अब ऊपर वाले को पढ़ते हैं कि दे आर टॉकिंग अबाउट दीज टू ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, UNCDF एंड आर्बर डे फाउंडेशन हैव रिसेंटली रिकग्नाइज्ड हैदराबाद एज द ट्री सिटी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. Now again they have deliberately put this organization UNCDF and they just want you to apply the logic कि यार ये जो यूनाइटेड नेशंस कैपिटल डेवलपमेंट फंड है, दे मस्ट बी गिविंग सम काइंड ऑफ कैपिटल टू डिफरेंट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस फॉर द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. तो ये ट्री सिटी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड में कहाँ से आ जाएंगे? तो मैंने इसी लॉजिक को अप्लाई करा दैट UNCDF यू हैव जस्ट डेलिबरेटली पुट दिस एंड ये काम कोई और कर रहा होगा और आपने बिना बात में ऐड करा है. So I went with my logic and rule which I formed after the analysis of PYQs, and I did first is wrong, 2 is right because 2 was also general and 1 had to be right. So the answer was statement 1 is not correct and statement 2 is correct. So as you can see that I have shown you in 3 questions. First is this one, 97th. Then question number 56. Here the body was Global Ocean Commission. This was again flipped by UPSC, and as original statement contained ISB, but they flipped it with Global Ocean Commission. And I think one more question I was able to display that here in 50, that UNICEF was flipped, UNESCO was flipped with UNICEF. So third question, there were 2 more questions where if you'll apply this logic or rule, you'll be able to reach to the answer. In this question, in the 14th question, WHO and World Bank, these were not the right organizations for this scheme. So again, I eliminated statement 2 with the same logic. And here in this third option also for the question number 13, I eliminated with, as I have written here, सच के आसपास का झूठ. I have shown the analysis for these 2 questions in the part 1 of the video. You can see by going there. Okay, so let's now continue with the rest of the questions. How is permaculture farming different from conventional chemical farming? Now whenever we come with some this sort of question where they are comparing different stuff, okay, so as you can clearly see that the question is so long that most of the students will already give up, that I don't know much about it, and they will start reading from here and they'll be like कि इसमें तो कुछ मुझे मिल ही नहीं रहा है जो मैं जानता हूँ, and they will move ahead. So यहाँ पे हमें ये सोचना है कि मुझे अगर एग्जैक्टली परमाकल्चर फार्मिंग नहीं भी पता, पर कन्वेंशनल केमिकल फार्मिंग के बारे में तो मुझे पता है ना, तो you know something. Okay, this question is not in that category where you know nothing. So let's read the question with a very fresh mind. Let's read from bottom to top, as I say. So practice of mulching is very important in permaculture farming, but not necessarily so in the conventional chemical farming. अब ये देखिए कि आपको मुझे एग्जामिनेशन कंडीशन में मल्चिंग पता थी कि मल्चिंग क्या होती है. सो मल्चिंग में बेसिकली यू कवर द ग्राउंड विद सम लीव्स so that evaporation is prevented and the moisture of the soil content is retained. Okay, and so I was like अगर मल्चिंग यहाँ पे हो रही है, और इन्होंने अब ये देखिए, इन्होंने ये नहीं कहा कि इट इज़ नॉट यूज्ड इन कन्वेंशनल केमिकल फार्मिंग. दे आर सेइंग इट इज़ नॉट नेसेसरीली सो इन कन्वेंशनल केमिकल फार्मिंग. तो अगर यहाँ पे ये हो जाता कि नॉट इन केमिकल फार्मिंग और यहाँ पे होती है, तो ये स्टेटमेंट गलत हो जाती कि कन्वेंशनल केमिकल फार्मिंग में भी यूज़ हो सकती है, बट यहाँ पे लिखा है कि नॉट नेसेसरीली, ज़रूरी नहीं है कन्वेंशनल केमिकल फार्मिंग में, पर कर सकते हो आप. तो स्टेटमेंट 4 एक जनरल स्टेटमेंट दिख रही है कि इसके हाई चांसेस है सही होने के. तो 4 जो है वो सिर्फ बी और सी में है. राइट। तो बी एंड सी में अब हमें देखना है 1 and 2। एक बार हम 3 को देख लेते हैं। कन्वेंशनल केमिकल फार्मिंग इज इजीली पॉसिबल इन सेमी एरिड रीजन्स बट पर्माकल्चर फार्मिंग इज नॉट सो इजीली पॉसिबल इन सच रीजन्स। देखिए अब यूपीएससी ने खुद ही कर दिया है, मतलब अगर पर्माकल्चर फार्मिंग है, कोई अच्छी फार्मिंग है, तो ऐसा कैसे होगा कि वो सेमी एरिड रीजन्स में नहीं होगी। वो यहीं के लिए तो डेवलप की होगी ना पर्माकल्चर को, कि पानी वगैरह नहीं है यहाँ पे, ज़्यादा हम इनपुट्स नहीं है हमारे पास, फिर भी हम कैसे अच्छी फार्मिंग कर सकें। सो दिस स्टेटमेंट इज़ रॉन्ग कि दिस कैन बी डन हेयर बट दिस कैन नॉट बी डन हेयर। यहाँ पे देखिए जब लिखा था कि मल्चिंग कैन बी डन हेयर बट नॉट नेसेसरीली, यहाँ पे ये नहीं लिखा था कि नॉट हेयर, अगर नॉट होता तो गलत कर देते। तो फाइनली हमारा एनालिसिस है 4th इज राइट, 3 इज रॉन्ग। अब आप जब स्टेटमेंट फर्स्ट और सेकंड पढ़ेंगे तो these are totally logical statements. I'll not read this here because it will take time, and just read this statement and there is nothing to falsify. Okay, that conventional can increase soil salinity but the occurrence of such phenomena is not observed. They are not saying that it doesn't occur, they are saying it is not observed. Okay, सो एंड पर्माकल्चर जो होगा वो कुछ ऑर्गेनिक टाइप कर रहे होंगे ना यार, केमिकल वगैरह यूज़ नहीं कर रहे होंगे, तो हो सकता है सेकंड। पर्माकल्चर फार्मिंग डिस्करेजेस मोनोकल्चर प्रैक्टिसेस बट इन कन्वेंशनल केमिकल फार्मिंग मोनोकल्चर प्रैक्टिस आर डोमिनेंट। अगर आपको स्टेटमेंट 2 नहीं भी पता, स्टेटमेंट 1 तो बिल्कुल ही कॉमन सेंस है। ओके, स्टेटमेंट 1 इज 100% कॉमन सेंस। तो स्टेटमेंट 1 आपने जैसी सही करी, आप 1 to 4 पे आ जाओगे, क्योंकि 4th तो सही हो ही चुका है और 3rd हट चुका है, तो हो गया है क्वेश्चन। नाउ विद रेफरेंस टू पाम ऑयल कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग स्टेटमेंट्स। नीचे से ऊपर पढ़ते हैं। द पाम ऑयल कैन बी यूज टू प्रोड्यूस बायोडीजल। कैन लिखा है, कैन जैसे ही आ गया तो आप येस करेंगे, क्योंकि बहुत मुश्किल है ये बात कहना कि बायोडीजल के पूरे प्रोसेस में कहीं भी ये प्रोडक्ट नहीं आता। ठीक है, तो कैन है, कोई भी प्रोडक्ट आएगा आप येस करेंगे अनटिल एंड अनलेस कोई बहुत ही एक्सट्रीम चीज़ नहीं आ जाएगी, जैसे कि कोई यहाँ पे यूरेनियम लिख दिया इन्होंने कि यूरेनियम इज़ यूज फॉर बायोडीजल, तब आप गलत करेंगे कि वो दिख रहा होगा आपको। ठीक है, तो 3rd सही हो गया। द पाम ऑयल इज़ अ रॉ मटेरियल फॉर सम इंडस्ट्रीज प्रोड्यूसिंग लिपस्टिक एंड परफ्यूम। अब यहाँ पे देखिए सम लिखा है, ठीक है, कह रहे हैं कि रॉ मटेरियल है कुछ इंडस्ट्रीज़ के लिए जो प्रोड्यूस कर रही है लिपस्टिक, तो आप कहेंगे ठीक है, जनरल स्टेटमेंट है, कहीं किसी ना किसी इंडस्ट्री में तो यूज़ हो रहा होगा ना इसका। अब आप फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट को पढ़िए। पाम ऑयल इज़ नेटिव टू साउथ ईस्ट एशिया। ठीक है, अब मैं रिड्यूस कर चुका था 2, 3 और 1, 2, 3 पे, सो आई वॉज स्टक बिटवीन बी एंड डी। सो अब मुझे ये पता था कि इंडिया इम्पोर्ट्स एंड मैनी कंट्रीज इम्पोर्ट अ लॉट ऑफ पाम ऑयल फ्रॉम साउथ ईस्ट एशिया। सो आई वॉज लाइक कि लेट्स गो विद डी। I went with D in examination hall, but it turned out to be false, and the answer was 2 and 3. अब उसका रीज़न क्या है? They are not asking about palm oil. They were asking about palm oil tree is native. यहाँ पे native ये बहुत important term था। तो the story came out to be that it is actually native not in Southeast Asia, and it was native in Africa. Okay. Sorry for the bad diagram. Yes, it's better now, I think. So it was native in Africa, and it was not native in Southeast Asia, and it was transferred from Africa to these Southeast Asian countries. Okay, so it was not native to Southeast Asian countries, but now in Southeast Asia there is a lot of palm oil agriculture, but it was not native here. So that's why the answer is B. Okay, but in exam condition I went with the D, and it turned out to be false. 53rd. So you can read this question, and I was very much confused in the exam because मुझे इंडस रिवर सिस्टम में पता था कि ऐसे ऐसे इंडस, झेलम, चेनाब, रवि, ब्यास होते हैं, बट आई वॉज नॉट एबल टू फिगर आउट द लैंग्वेज ऑफ द फ्रॉम द क्वेश्चन बिकॉज दे वर आस्किंग दैट 4 rivers, 3 of them pour into one of them. Now it was totally an interpretation of the examiner, that what he or she is interpreting when he or she is saying that 3 of them join. Because अगर एक ये रिवर जा रही है और यहाँ पे ये ज्वाइन करती है, ये ज्वाइन करती है, और फिर ये यहाँ पे किसी और को ज्वाइन करती है, तो हम किस रिवर को बोलेंगे कि दैट इज़ द मेन रिवर? तो मुझे ये चीज़ बहुत ही एग्जैक्टली प्रिसाइजली दिख गई थी एग्जाम में कि ये बहुत कॉन्ट्रोवर्शियल क्वेश्चन होने वाला है, and ultimately UPSC will declare the answer. No one could have claimed that this is the answer. So I left the question despite knowing stuff, because I knew that this is going to be controversial, and it would have been a guess if would have gone with it. So I left this question. 54th question, I left this question because I had no idea that what were these Didwana, Kuchman, Sargol, Khatu. I had no idea. And I was definitely knowing that these are not glaciers because I knew the major glaciers that were there in India. So these were not there, but it could have been, and they were not also Ramsar sites actually because I knew the Ramsar sites. But even then, I think I was not able to figure out that whether, and it would have been a big guess out of A, B, and D. So I didn't attempt this, but the right answer was D. And this is a totally 100% factual question. Max to max, you could have eliminated C from the knowledge that these are not Ramsar sites, and they could have been mangrove, and they are not even major lakes. They are just very hypersaline lakes in Rajasthan, and that's why they were asked. So these are factual questions, and I didn't attempt it. And there is no logic as such here. Consider the following rivers. Now they are asking which of the above rise from the Eastern Ghats. Okay, so it is very important to understand that if if these are the Eastern Ghats, okay, just a minute. If these are the Eastern Ghats, we need to answer that which of the rivers are actually rising from the Eastern Ghats, okay, and there are few rivers here. There are few rivers here who come from before from behind the Eastern Ghats. So they are asking that which rivers originate from the Eastern Ghats. So this was a very specific question, and I think the right answer was this 2 and 4, Nagavali and Vamsadhara, and it was a totally factual question. Whether you know it or you do not know it, I went with, I think I did 1 and 3, which was actually the diagonal opposite of the answer, and this was a wrong answer, and the right answer was 2 and 4. So sometimes it is very important to read question very patiently. You need to know exactly they are asking which of the above rise from Eastern Ghats. So that was the key. So I just explained 56. Question number 57, they have been asking this repetitively. Okay. And which of the following are least water efficient? So the answer was sugarcane. Had there been rice here, it would have been difficult to choose from between rice and sugarcane because both are very least water efficient. They are called water guzzling crops, and rice is even called virtual export of water because it consumes a lot of water. So A was the answer here, and it was a conceptual question. Now what we can do from this question is that we can read a little bit about red gram, pearl millet, sunflower also, because in the future they can ask about these crops. Okay. 58th, no logic, totally conceptual question. You will have to read NCRTs. You will have to read that different kind of climatic zones and how different wind patterns emerge, and what is high pressure, what is low pressure. Until and unless you're not in knowledge of that, you're not aware about the westerlies, you're not aware about the different trade winds and stuff, you'll not be able to answer it. So the answer was C here, but there is no logic. You need to know 100% concept of the chapter from geography. 59th. So again, this was one of the bouncer for me in the examination hall. I read the different statements, and I think I went with 1 and 3 in the examination hall for this question because I thought that the project of this CCFS is carried under this is headquartered in France. So my approach was that UPSC would have flipped France. It would have been in some different country, and it is so easy for UPSC to flip. For example, it is in US, or for example it is in UK. UPSC would have just flipped it to France. So with that logic, I thought that 3 and 1 seemed to me a very general statement, very logical statement that it could have been true. But statement, I was stuck between these two options, 1, 2, 3, and 1 and 3. So I went with C, and the other final answer turned out to be D. Uh, you can pause and read the 60th question. It is a very long question, and it was a very easy one actually, because these kind of different forests which are there, they are explained in great detail in the NCRT, and the answer for it was, I think, dry deciduous forest. and again, no amount of logic could have solved this question. You totally require conceptual clarity. Let me just read it once again. I think I marked it wrong. B. Let me read the question. Leaf litter decomposes faster than in any other biome, and as a result, the soft soil is almost bare. Apart from trees, a vision large number of plant forms that reach up in the canopy easily by climbing the reach. Sorry, the answer is D actually. The answer is not B, because they are talking about that apart from trees, the vegetation is largely composed of plant forms that reach up into the canopy. So basically जो ये high canopy होती है tropical rainforest में होती है, which is there in Brazil. By climbing trees or growing up as epiphytes rooted on the upper branches of tree. So the answer is D. Again, see, I initially marked B because somehow I remembered it is B, but when I read the statement, I figured out that the answer is D. So again, it is 100% conceptual question. So that's it for this video. I think we covered around 32 questions in this video, and I'll complete the video, I think, in the next part, where we will discuss questions from 61 to 100. Thank you for watching the video, and you can let know your suggestions in the comment section if I left anything unanswered. Thank you so much.